Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas. Hi, this is Matt, and you're listening to Bluegrass Jam Along, the podcast for anyone and everyone who loves bluegrass. Hey everybody, welcome back to Bluegrass Jam Along. This week I have a bite-sized episode for you, and for those of you who haven't heard these before, they're just a little snippet from a previous interview. There are so many episodes out now, nearly 500. It's just a chance to resurface some of the older stuff you might have missed if you're a new listener, or just, if you've been listening all the way through but just haven't been able to keep up with it all. But also just a chance to pull out an interesting bit of a previous conversation. I enjoy re-listening to them. There's always stuff I've forgotten. And I think that'll be true for other people too. So this week, my guest is Jarrod Walker. Jarrod plays mandolin for Billy Strings and has been with him for a few years now. And we had a really interesting conversation about all sorts of stuff, about how Billy's music is like simultaneously really traditional and really progressive, and sort of Jarrod's thoughts on that. Where he was at before, because Jarrod was contemplating an entirely different kind of career path when he joined Billy, and that was interesting. But just this snippet focuses on really how he started, how he got the gig with Billy, how he started with the band, and the sort of journey of playing big venues and having to plug in the instruments and the compromises of that, but also some of the benefits and dealing with that, and the sort of interesting journey he's been on with electronics and pedals and stuff as well. And just a really cool conversation. I've chatted to Jarrod a couple of times, once for this, and he also joined me to talk about Mike Marshall and Chris Thiele's Into the Cauldron album, and we celebrated the 20th anniversary of that. Really interesting guy, really, and a great player, great mandolin player, one of my favourites. So yes, I will stick a link in the show notes if you want to go back and hear the full episode from, I think it was March 2022, so it's been out a while now. Do go and check it out. If you like this, the whole interview is kind of along these lines. There's lots of great stuff in there. I could happily have posted the whole thing. I listened to it all again just to find this segment to put out, and I really enjoyed it. So yes, my interview with Jarrod Walker coming up. If you would like to support Bluegrass Jam Along, keep these episodes coming. The easiest way to do that is through Apple Podcasts. You can subscribe for 99 cents a month. Goes towards helping keep the podcast going, and is all very much appreciated. Thank you very much to the new subscribers this week. And if you don't want to do that, it's also totally fine. But do, if you've heard an episode, like say you like this one and you've got a mate who's a Billy Strings fan, send them a link. Just share the episodes if you enjoy them. That is it. I will leave you to it. Here is Jarrod Walker.
I played my first shows with Billy in 2017, the fall of 2017. I was still with Claire Lynch at the time. And Claire told me when I joined her band that she was wanting to play for 2 or 3 more years and then really scale things back and more or less retire. So the timing of it really worked out really well. I got a call from my brother that Billy was looking for somebody to play on a tour. And so I knew Royal, the bass player, Royal Nassat, from doing some previous gigs in a different band. And so I texted Royal and I called Royal, and pretty soon they were flying me out a couple days later to play some shows, and we went straight to Baltimore, and we were rehearsing on the sidewalk. We didn't really have time to go over a whole lot, but it was really fun. And even though it was more electrified and amplified than anything that I'd ever played in before, it was simultaneously more bluegrass than anything that I'd played in before. We were playing like songs like like Slow Train, which is a Larry Sparks song. And I can't remember what all we played there, but songs like Sophrony and, Slewfoot, and songs that are very, very traditional bluegrass, which I was absolutely shocked and floored to see people singing along to these songs, and not sitting in chairs, but they were standing up. And that was something that was right away kind of a shock to the system, but it was simultaneously the most progressive and the most traditional gig that I'd ever been on at the same time, which I think is part of the formula to the success.
Yeah, absolutely. And did the sort of the amplified side of things, was that a bit of a learning curve, or were you kind of used to playing plugged in at that point?
No, I didn't have a DI. I didn't have a pickup. I had never done any of that stuff. And I had to get a pickup put in my mandolin in the day or two that I had home in between flying out. I told Royal, I was like, I've never needed a pickup before. I can just play into a microphone. And he's like, you're probably going to need a pickup. These crowds get pretty loud. And I was like, well, okay, I guess I'll do that. Sure. Fine. Whatever. And, obviously look at where things are at now. It would be impossible to just use microphones, which, people online, oftentimes they're like, if these guys were any good, they wouldn't have to use all this amplification. Tony Rice never used amplification, and like, oh, blah, 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 keep on going. But it would be impossible to play into microphones in some of the rooms that we're playing in now. And people are there to have a good time. And a lot of times having a good time means screaming and hollering and shouting. And we all agree the sound of a microphone is better than the sound of a DI. And I wish that we could play to these crowds with solely using microphones, and that we could just get around one mic and we could all sing together, and we can, feel the push and the pull of each other's voices. That's bluegrass. It's hard to play bluegrass and have it feel the way that it's supposed to feel when you're playing with in-ears, and when you're separated, and it's you don't really get to hear the room. You just hear, you're very isolated, and you hear what you hear, what you tell the monitor guy, what you want in your ears. And a lot of times it's hard to know what you want. So yeah, if we could get away with playing into microphones and doing nothing else, no DIs, we would love to do that, because the tone of a microphone is always better than the tone of a DI. And the tone of an instrument in a room is better than the tone of an instrument into a microphone.
Yeah.
But you can't play on stage with no microphones. You just can't do it. And you can't play to 5,000 people with SM 57s and 58s. You just can't do it. You can't crank them up enough. The whole room would be just a feedback tank. And it comes with the territory that you have to use in-ear monitors, and it's pluses and minuses.
And I guess you sort of find yourself getting further and further away from your bandmates on stage as well, which is, not only are you plugged in, then you're also, that thing of crowding around one mic, you're right up there next to each other, and you must, particularly playing some amphitheatres and some of the outdoor venues, must be hard to feel as connected on stage as well.
It is, for sure. But, we've been doing it for so long now. We've played who knows how many shows. One year we played 185 shows in a year.
Wow.
That was, 2018 or maybe 19. So we've been playing, we've played 500 or more shows together in that setting. So we've gotten more comfortable with it. And we recently started going with wireless packs, so we can walk around the stage and interact a little bit more freely. We're not as confined to our cables as we were before. Billy was able to move around in the past for like the past year or year and a half and some change, but that's a recent addition for us, and it's a little bit more interactive. Just being able to walk over, when the banjo is taking a solo, to walk over closer to him, I can feel the banjo a little bit better, and I don't know if I can really even hear it any better because my ears are plugged with in-ears, but it definitely seems to make a difference. And just there's nothing better than just being around one mic.
And I guess the joy of it is that being plugged in, it allows you guys to experiment with some different sounds, which has become a big part of the live sound. And it's you can't do that with a microphone in the same way. And has it always been pedals and various additions to the sound always been part of the live set, or is that something that's grown more in recent years?
Well, it was always there at some capacity. Billy was using pedals before any of us were, the rest of the band. I think through his connection to Green Sky Bluegrass. And I credit Paul Hoffman, the mandolinist and lead singer for Green Sky, for helping me, and their former front of house engineer, Greg Burns. They both really helped me get things dialed in for my mandolin, because it's somewhat uncharted territory. There's not a huge precedent for pedals and mandolin. I don't know if there are any pedals that are specifically built for mandolin, because there are so few people doing it, and it's such a niche market. But I've been able to find through those guys, Paul told me what he has found that works. He told me that reverb and delay, those are safe bets. And he might have told me a freeze, and I took what he said and really ran with it. And you gotta drop some cash to get the good equipment. Half of it is just buying the stuff. For me personally, I'm never going to learn how to work a pedal if I just go into a store every once in a while and tweak it a little bit. But if I have it at home and I've invested that amount of money into it, I'm going to be more dead set on figuring the thing out. And I think now I've gotten things much more dialed in. But I definitely credit those guys with getting me this far.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, the market out there for people to be building pedals just for mandolinists is very small. So, even the pedals you buy are voiced for a different instrument. And, it's that I think that's really interesting, that point about you can't get a sense of what something's like in the store, because not only do you not play the same in a store as you would at home, but also a pedal, like where it sits in your chain and fits with the other pedals and how it influences how they all work together. You can only do that by playing around with your setup.
Right. All that stuff matters. And I have on many occasions bought pedals that sounded fantastic in the store, and then I take them on tour, and Andy Lytle, who is our front of house man, he tells me when I engage that pedal, he can't hear it, but I hear it in my headphones. So it's very experimental, and, you buy something, you hope it works. It sounds great right there. But it's uncertain whether it will translate on stage or not. Mm-hmm. It's a very strange thing, and it really is very experimental. And I've never found any distortion that sounded good on a mandolin, which is that's another thing that Paul Hoffman told me. He says it just doesn't seem to work, and I don't think that particular kind of distortion, whatever that would be, to be suitable for mandolin, I don't know if it exists yet, or maybe it's just not meant to be.
Yeah.
But there's some pedals that are built, most of these pedals are built for guitar. So some of them, say a distortion pedal like I was talking about, you plug a mandolin into that and it just sounds cheap. It's a really nice pedal, but it just sounds cheapened with a mandolin. It sounds like, 1980s, guitar tone, it's not necessarily what I'm going for, but I'm always on the hunt for something new and a new sound. And they're out there. I'm sure of it.
Well,
it's like hunting for treasure.
Seem to be going through a kind of golden age of pedal building at the moment. There's so much out there. You could, like narrowing it down to what you actually want to get must be half the battle now.
It is. You go into these pedal shops and they've got 500 boutique pedals for you to choose from, and they all have bizarre names that don't explain what they even are. Like here, try the green chair, try the golden dragon. It's like, okay, I'll try those. I don't know what that means, but so it's just like it can be very tedious, but that's kind of what you have to do, and it helps you find somewhat of a unique sound. Sometimes you buy a pedal that is only applicable to one song. You only use this pedal for one song for maybe 15 seconds, every 5 shows. But it's like it sounds so good that it's worth it to add that other layer to the sound.
Bluegrass Jam Along is proud to be sponsored by Collins Guitars and Mandolins, each and every one built from the sound up in Austin, Texas.